about this. I'm going to talk about Agile practice in Drupal 8 module development. My name is Yas. I'm a principal architect of cloud in Docomo Innovations in Palo Alto. So Docomo is, maybe as you know, well, Docomo is a mobile operator, one of the mobile carrier in Japan. And our company, Docomo Innovation, is the R&D organization institute as the subsidiary company from the Docomo headquarters in Japan. So my expertise is cloud and DevOps and Agile software development. And in the Drupal community, I'm working on the Drupal for more than 14 years. So today I will introduce the Agile software development, but what we are developing now, that is the Drupal contributed module, which called the cloud. If you go to the drupal.org project/cloud, and that is our project. Basically, we are developing the cloud portal, kind of the cloud dashboard, which can manage the AWS and the Kubernetes, even OpenStack. So we are adding some plugin in addition to the AWS. Now we are working on the highly Kubernetes. We are focusing on the Kubernetes. So let me show some demo. So this is the So this is the cloud portal, Drupal.org cloud project. Let me fill out. A little bit darker. It's very hard. Oh yes. I'm logging to the testing site of our development, and then I can show you the Kubernetes management console, such as exactly the same Kubernetes dashboard in the original version. This is something like a blur. So what we are developing is now we want to manage the Kubernetes cluster because, Docomo is one of the top, AWS consumption company, and then we want to utilize the AWS instances as much as possible. Sometimes we purchase the reserved instance at the same time a lot, but some of the reserved instance is not used fully not used. So we want to fill out the container into the available nodes. So we can visualize which nodes are available and which nodes can accommodate some resources. So that's kind of a thing we are, seeking the function. So go back to point. So from now on, I'm talking about the Agile software development, especially focusing on the Scrum Agile development. And then I will introduce our team members, and I'm introduced what is the challenge, time and space, because actually, we are practicing Agile development based on the virtual team across the world. And I will introduce the development cycle and process, and last thing, I will introduce the project management. So the first, what is the Scrum? Scrum is one of the agile software development methodologies. So we have the to-do list, which called the backlog. First, we will figure out what is our task in our, the beginning of the project, and then we will figure out what we should is doing during our project, which called the sprint backlog. The sprint is something like a period of the some short term of the period from the beginning to the end. Basically, well, we are doing our sprint for 2 weeks. So we have some cycle for 2 or 4 weeks, but especially in our project, that sprint is 2 weeks. And then basically, well, in a Scrum Agile development methodology, we should have a daily stand-up. If we have the team members in our office, we can have some daily stand-up meeting at the beginning of our work. For example, 9 o'clock or 10 a.m. in the morning. But as I said, our team members is scattered in geographically scattered, so we cannot do that. So we are skipping the daily stand-up. But anyway, well, after 2 weeks later, we have some outcome. So that could be the potentially shippable product. So we will stack some small outcome one by one after 2 weeks sprint. Then our team members, me as a Yas, I'm managing the project as a Scrum Master. But sometimes I'm actually moving the hand. Actually, I'm a hands-on guy. So, but it's not good. Actually, So, as a manager, if I jump into the project as a developer, developer needs to have some time. So it's something like it's very difficult to balance in between the management side and the development side. But we only have the 4 people, Baldwin and Khan and Masami, just only the 4 people. So, well, sometimes I help some bug fixing or adding a new feature. But basically, the Baldwin, Khan, and Masami, 3 guys and developers are highly involved in the implementation and the testing. So here is the challenging time and space. So Baldwin and I are located in California, in Palo Alto and South San Francisco. But Khan and Masami are working in Japan. Actually, there is just some time difference, 17 hours. Actually, one day is 24 hours. So basically, 7 or 8 hours, we have the time difference, or 17 hours. So that is the challenge. Actually, it's very difficult to find some kind of overlapping the time. So we found that in California, 6 p.m. PDT, Pacific time, and then 10 a.m. Japan Standard Time. Actually, that is almost one of the golden time. And then we have we need to have some life balance. So it's very hard to find. Actually, if I want to have the meeting, online meeting from the 4 p.m. in Japan, that is at 8 a.m. It's early in the morning. And then if they want to start the meeting from around the afternoon, then here is the 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. So it's very difficult to match the time. But basically, well, every week we have Wednesday in PDT and Thursday JST. We have the online meeting. So that's the time slot, only the time slot. And then for the development cycle, let me talk about the waterfall model. It's a very traditional development model. First, I want to introduce. So actually, I used to work for kind of a system integration company in Japan. So that's a very, very large scale development that I experienced. So we developed the nationwide kind of a banking system or nationwide, government system to register for example, the automobile or car or some social security system. In that case, we need to have some plan and the requirement and the specification and planning or design and implement and the testing and the release. That is a very, very long-term kind of contract, long-term development. Because government or some other large enterprise have some budget, annual budget. So we need to move on to the contract for a long term. But on the other hand, that's the release only one time, and then various number of the resources in each phase. We need to have some resources in each phase, something like if we want to design a system, we will call the architect or some other business person and also customers. And then after we start the development, we need to call the system engineers, system developers, software engineers. And then the implementation and testing phase, we have lots of people, and we will ask the sub-partners. So that is kind of the waterfall model. Then that problem is we only have just only one release after long time later. But on the other hand, agile development is, so we need to have some plan, but after that, we have the development, we have the specification and the requirement consideration, and then development, and then quality assurance for example, 2 weeks or 1 month time frame, and the release. So we will iterate those kind of the cycle again and again. So in that way, we have lots of releases. Every 4 to 6 weeks, we can have some releases. Actually, in a cloud project, we release this kind of the short-term outcome. And then developers are involved from the design to quality assurance. So this project, so only in our project, only 4 people are engaged in the cloud orchestrator development from the first to the end. So we have the very short-term cycle in comparison to the waterfall model. That's very different from so much different from in between the waterfall model for system integration and agile development for some software component development. So we take the 2-week sprint, sprint planning and a sprint review. So at the beginning of the sprint, at the beginning of the 2 weeks, we start the planning, what we need to do, what we want to do. So we all agree we should have done after 2 weeks later. And then after 2 weeks later, we have the sprint review meeting, and then we will retrospective. We have some retrospective meeting, what we could done during the 2 weeks. And then, but we have the weekly meeting every 1 week. As I mentioned, Wednesday and the Thursday, we have the status update meeting. And then for release, internally, we start from the Alpha 1 version and Alpha 2, Beta 1, 2, RC1, 2, and a release. This is connecting to the semantic versioning, basically. But well, we put the Alpha 1, 2, Beta 1, 2, RC1, 2, and a release. It means, each release is for 2 weeks. It means finally we have after 4 or 6 weeks later, we have a major release version. Minor release version. So development process, we start with the sprint planning meeting with the WebEx. We are using the WebEx online, and then we share the task management task list based on the Jira. And then after agree to all tasks, what we should do during the 2 weeks the sprint backlog, we start to develop. And then we create the issue and the patch in Drupal.org. And then here is some, still we have some problem because we start the project management with the Jira. But on the other hand, in Drupal.org, we can do the same thing. So what's the difference? Well, we are using the Jira for the project status management. And this is kind of the agreement of the, what we need to do during the sprint. On the other hand, Drupal.org, we put exactly the same task into the Drupal.org issue queue, but it's connecting to the patch. So we separate some, the to-do list and Drupal.org issue for the development. And then it's something like, you may feel it's something like overlapping and redundant, and it's not so efficient. But we find how we can do well in between the Jira and Drupal.org. So as I said, the first we plan the to-do list in a Jira, and then we bring those issues into the Drupal.org, and then we will end up our task at the Drupal.org, because Drupal.org has some status starting from the active, as you know, needs work and needs review, and at this point, each member will review our patch each other. And then someone agree to some patch that someone suggested into the Drupal.org. Then if the automate test in the Drupal.org is passed successfully, then we will review the patch. And then if everybody agree in the team members, then we will change the state to the RTBC. And then we merge the patch, and then change the status to fixed, and then go back to the Jira. In the Jira, we change the state from the in progress to the done. So still, it's something like inefficient, but this is our cycle of our development process. Once we establish this kind of the process as our culture, then that's very easy to manage this kind of the project. So I talked about the requirements and backlog and sprint review and planning. And then in the Jira, we have the story point and the software release. So let me switch to the browser. Oh yes, so this is a kind of actually live screenshot of the Jira. So there is some sprint backlog. Each row shows here some issue, and we label some version number here like this, and then. So now we are in the sprint 38, and we already have the next sprint planning version by version. So we have a lot of backlog, and currently it's very successful to engage in the sprints. everything is planned and everything is no delay to finish. Yeah, of course, this is agile, so this we need to be flexible by considering our life balance. So sometimes some member wants to have some vacation, and then we need to think about this task needs to be delayed. But basically, we understand each other. We are the very small team, so we can understand. We can respect their members, their lifestyle. And then, so this is the current sprint bound down chart. So here is the y-axis means the y-axis shows some story point. So what is a story point? Each task has something like the called story point, which is some degree of the difficulty or quality of the task. So it is just like a number value. We are taking the value from the Fibonacci series, something like 2, 3, 5, 8, 11, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. Yeah, I think so. Well, then we found that at the first, at the beginning of the sprint, we figure out this task is what is the story point in this task. And then if we think this task could be the 21 story point, then it must be break up. So maybe up to 13 or 15, the one person can handle for the one task, basically. That we found. Initially, this task is very big. It's something like a t-shirt size. And then we think this task is, we are unknown technology, so we cannot handle that. We put the 21. So in that case, we need to break up to the more smaller task, or we need to think about the task itself. That basically 2 or 3 story points task is very easy to be done. So as a manager, I think as much as possible, we should break down to the more smaller task if we have the bigger task. So that is from the project management point of view, that's very important. If you see, this job is some story point, we have done the task with this kind of the story point. But if you can see this kind of a small gap. So that means the very small tasks, such as some one line fix in a patch or something like that. So, but basically, it's very, in this sprint, we are on the track the right way. And then after sprint has been done, we are measuring what we could in the sprint with some story point. So gray bar shows our plan, and then green bar shows our the outcome with the story point. So as you can see, it's something like a wave, up and down. So if we have some local story points during the sprint, then the next sprint, the productivity of the story point is dropping down. That's very interesting. I found that kind of thing because this one could be the next. So if we think about the average, our story points average is 100, basically, that I feel. But basically, here, this sprint and this sprint is very similar pattern. We have around 125 story points at the beginning, but we achieved more than 125. And here, also, I'm I'm considering the reason. I think in these sprints, we have a lot of smaller tasks, and then the motivation can continue in each person. So that's I found. And then these sprints, I found that we have the more bigger task, right? And then more bigger task, we are overwhelmed with some bigger task, and then the number is very honest actually. So after 2 weeks, we cannot achieve the some goal, but after that, we retrospective the sprint, and then we review the what was the bad thing in a prior sprint, and then we rethink the planning after that, and then sprint after the later sprint, the productivity is higher. So that's the way. So I think we need to learn about we need to keep. So what we can do with the some amount of the story point during the 2 weeks. We'll go back to PowerPoint. So, well, that's what I talked about the Scrum and the team and the challenge for time and space and development cycle and the process and Agile software development by Jira. So that's what we are achieving our cloud project in our company. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Any questions?
So when this, I agree with your thought process that we need to break down the bigger task into small chunk of tasks for right execution or iteration. But at times, when you are not able to achieve that within the defined timeline,
right,
that means there's a lot of backlog that gets created. So how do you deal with that situation? How do you, backlog will be a part of the execution.
Yes.
We cannot completely avoid that.
Yes.
But how can we keep balance between the backlog and without impacting sprint planning for the further weeks? Overall, not impacting the timelines that we envisioned that okay, after 10 weeks of time we must achieve that much level, and in order to achieve that level,
yes,
we break down those things into small sprints and pieces. So I don't want to postpone this week, this timeline that we have defined, but how we take care of the backlog that it remains in balance without impacting the final timelines.
Yeah, that's a good question. Basically, key point is the priority, right? So in the Jira, we have the highest and the high and the medium, low and the lowest priority, the 5 scale. So that's very important. During the sprint meeting, so always team members are asking me, well, what is the most important thing? So that is connecting to what we need to do, achieve at the end of the sprint, right? Well, you're right. Even though we put some priority, there are lots of background after that.
Right.
Yeah. But well, after that is kind of a negotiation. As a manager, I need to negotiate to the some stakeholders. For example, my boss or some stakeholder is one of the stakeholder is Japan headquarters side.
Right.
So we can show, we only have the 4 people. We have already we measured our volume and capability. So that is, I think, our kind of a strongest point right now. Prioritizing, and we have if someone, some stakeholder push our project, but we can push back because I can show some Jira, like charts,
Right.
like you know the
That boosts the probability.
yeah productivity. This is something like you know transparent for the productivity. Our capability and productivity is like this. Yeah. If someone asked us much more like you know
Which is
task or maybe shorten the deliverable date. We can say, we can, you know, scientifically we can say if we want to finish at this date, we need to have some more resource.
Is it
Or,
vice-
yeah, drop the some, you know, functionality or something.
But then that will add to the cost of the contract.
Yes. It's beyond the development actually. It's something like a negotiation in between the manager to the boss or stakeholders.
We missed this. We are still struggling to find a proper solution, but I think we hit the balance between, okay, let's not extend the delivery date.
Yes.
You rightly said prioritizing, so we do the prioritizing and we let go the low priority
Yes.
issues that we will take care of them after the launch.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
Rather than adding resources and adding the cost.
Yes. We only have the three parameters in the project, like quality and cost and the delivery date, right? So we can only tweak the three parameters. If someone pushes us the lots of more capability or features, then that means the more quality or cost will be higher, right? Or longer deliverable date. So, but based on the Jira management tool, that can visualize our productivity. So I'm showing that kind of the chart into the stakeholders every week actually. Yes. And then stakeholder knows about we are making a lot of efforts, and then they understand what we achieved so far. Yeah. So yeah.
The data to show the efforts are.
Yes.
I'm sort of curious related to that. When you lay out the alpha and beta and then
Yes.
these candidates, that makes sense for a project that's kind of contained when you're getting ready to put out for the first time into the wild.
Yes.
But then what do? Do you still do with your sprints multiple rounds of sprints to confirm when you do another like bug fixes or you pick up some stuff in the backlog? Or do you just go ahead and push those straight through?
Straight. Go ahead. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do a regular 2-week sprint then?
Yeah, regular 2 weeks sprint.
So you basically break away from your plan
Yes.
when you're doing maintenance for yourself.
Yeah, maintenance is later. Yeah. If we have some critical bug, of course we will put some critical bug in the middle of the sprint. But some other backlog can be delayed. Yeah. And then as a Scrum Master, I'm adjusting. If someone take over the critical bug right now, then I drop some other things later. I think about the point is everyone needs to agree. As a manager, if I push something to the developer is very fragile. Yeah, I know that the feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm very taking care of the feeling of the developer. Yes.
And is peer review also part of that sprint plan?
I'm sorry?
Peer review is also part of that plan.
Code review is based on the patch review. After someone creates a patch into the Drupal.org,
Okay.
then everybody will check some patch quality. Yeah, surprisingly, our team member is a highly professional, so only the submitting a patch, so they can point out which is wrong or not. Yeah, I'm surprised about that kind of thing. They don't, need to merge into their environment, the testing environment. Yeah, just like reading the patch, then they can find this is wrong or something. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.